It's Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network. Time for our latest show across the Believe channels. You can check us out on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts, and also on Talking Cats with Russ Heltman. Still feeling good after my Alaskan vacation. Neil went to one of my favorite spots last week, Destin, Florida, and we are ready to roll with those fun trips in the rearview mirror. Energized, good to go with less than 6 weeks until the Cincinnati Bearcats football team fires up camp at Higher Grounds. Got to get that camp going a few days earlier this year because of the August 28th kickoff, kicking off on a Thursday instead of a Saturday in week one. And that means camp gets going a couple of days earlier than normal. We got a fun show for everybody today, talking about just getting Neil's thoughts on the Sheakley Indoor Performance Facility, Indoor Practice Facility, and Performance Center opening up, and just all that stuff that's happened in the last week. They've already had a speaker in there, media training the guys. They've already been teaching them how to make food and stuff in the cafeteria. It's the impact is already being felt for the program, that's for sure. Plus commits, two of them in recent days for Cincinnati football. We have scheduling locked in, some of it locked in for Cincinnati hoops in terms of the Big 12 teams they are going to face this coming season. And the Dayton game has a date. November 11th is when they're going to be taking on the Dayton Flyers. And no more Heritage Bank Arena or Heritage Bank Center to be used for Cincinnati, at least in these matchups over the next couple of years. Plus, we'll note that they are going after the best of the best in the class of 2027 at the basketball level. All that coming up on this episode of Bearcat Blitz. Hope everybody enjoys it. And we will get to it after these messages in just a few moments. Neil, welcome you in now as we get into the first segment on this edition of Bearcats Blitz. The IPF up, rolling, ready. You and I have been walking past it. We've been witnessing the construction step by step, beam by beam, bolt by bolt, going into all that steel over the last few years. They got it done on time, on budget. It's going to be a staple of the entire campus for years, if not decades and decades and decades to come. This is the magnum opus, I think, for at least the John Cunningham era of Cincinnati athletics in terms of the overall mark he's going to eventually leave as athletic director. It was a huge, huge, huge ribbon cutting last week, Neil, and it seems like they're already getting great use out of it. And we heard Scott Satterfield and John Cunningham describe how it's not only going to help the football team, but help the entire athletics program in general. And the football team, I mean, Neil, they got in there that day. They toured it on Wednesday. They were in there working. Nico Palzetti told me he had a plan ready on Thursday for them to start getting their work in, and they've started releasing some shots of the guys on the field doing workouts. So it's here, man. They are ready to take advantage of it, and it looks like they're going to get the full impact of what a summer at the IPF looks like, what a full season practicing at the IPF looks like, and hopefully for Bearcats fans, I wish this for them. They get to see some more on-field success this fall, and maybe, just maybe, crack that 6-win mark for the first time in the Scott Satterfield era.
Yeah, absolutely, Russ. And like you mentioned, this has been something that's been 2 years plus in the making, and it has already made an impact for the University of Cincinnati because you look at what they were able to do with the ribbon cutting. You saw all the media there. Obviously, I wasn't able to attend due to being on vacation, but overall, it's a humongous, humongous thing for Cincinnati, and it's going to trend and lead this athletics department into so many different new directions that it's going to benefit this university. Because on top of it, Russ, that now solidifies Cincinnati into conversations where they might have arguably one of the top five nicest indoor practice facilities in all of college athletics. So anytime you can sell that and you have that kind of architecture on campus, which is what the University of Cincinnati is historically known for, is the architecture and the landscape of the campus. Now you're adding a new facet and it's going to draw a lot of people in, and rightfully so. We've seen that here in the recent days. We've seen two commitments already coming out of it, but it is a huge thing for Cincinnati. I wish I would have been able to kind of see the finished product up in person, but I was able to watch the video that and see some of the pictures that JT and you have posted and from Ryan Roberts, man, that thing looks incredible. And even Larry Shakley, like you heard how much it meant to him to
Yeah.
kind of see what this indoor practice facility that is named in his honor kind of came everything to fruition. I know he kind of said in the interview that he stopped coming the final few months to check things out and check out the progress because he wanted to be kind of surprised to see what the final product looked like. And he said it was everything and more than what he dreamed of for the University of Cincinnati. So that was very cool to hear Larry Shakley and his comments on the practice facility that is named after him.
Yeah, Neil, I'm sure you'll get to spend plenty of time in that thing over the next few years and beyond, no doubt about it. As they will be largely practicing there, and we'll be able to be inside the practice facility, see the whole ins and outs, and get that full view, full taste of what they have going on there at the IPF. And they were still, I mean, they had opened it last week, but they're still doing the finishing touches on some things, specifically the Zen Den. I love that they named it the Zen Den, the Flick Zen Den. It seems like they're still putting some of the recovery methods into that area, but I mean the cold tubs, everything in the training room and the training facility, it's there, ready to roll and top notch. And that to me, Neil, is where I want to kind of end the IPF talk. I didn't get to talk about it on the individual show last week because there was just so much to discuss with the IPF, but the fact that you're in a league like the Big 12, you're playing a sport that's as demanding and as kind of dangerous and as injury filled, injury laden as football. What I saw out of that training facility, it's going to match or exceed anything else that any other Big 12 team has. We already know, Neil, that Cincinnati has the humans behind that facility, behind those pieces of equipment, led by Aaron Himmler, to be the top of the line in the Big 12 because, Neil, they were just the top of the line in the Big 12 as the best sports performance, sports training staff in the entire conference. So now you mix those kind of accolades from the individual humans and you put them together with the pieces of equipment that they didn't have access to before this. It's just going to make Cincinnati recover that much better, recover that much faster, and maybe just maybe you get back a key player 1 or 2 weeks faster than you would have in previous years. They make a key play down the stretch of the season, and that's the difference between you being in a bowl game or not being in a bowl game, or best case scenario, being in contention with a chance to punch your ticket to the Big 12 title game in the last couple of weeks of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great thing to mention too, because you know how demanding the Big 12 is in terms of football. You see guys getting nicks and bruises, getting beat up late in the season. Having this kind of recovery element for Cincinnati, which is led by Aaron Himmler and his staff, who've done a fantastic job and have earned the respect that they have been given across the country.
Yeah.
Now you add another tool and element into their package, it's only going to make Cincinnati's medical staff and their athletic staff so much better than where they were at a season ago, considering all their elements last season were at Nippert Stadium, right?
Yeah.
Now you add an indoor practice facility with all these new elements. You have your cold tubs, you have your recovery zones, you have all that over in the IPF. It's only going to make things better for Cincinnati. And Russ, it would shock me now if Cincinnati's medical staff does not win sports team of the year for a second straight season with
Back to
all the new
back, baby.
elements and all the stuff that they are having there in the indoor practice facility to make these athletes recover and give them all the essentials they need to succeed on and off the field.
Speaking of those athletes, two new additional commits to the 2026 class to bring it out to 12 commitments as of this writing. It's hovering them right around the 60 range nationally, 60th nationally, give or take, depending on what service you look at right now. Lance Dawson on Monday and Brody Jones on Sunday. Jones, three-star cornerback out of Fayetteville, Arkansas. He's currently the third highest rated commit for Cincinnati football as of this recording on 24/7 Sports. 86 overall. Lance Dawson at an 87, so he's the second highest rated commit, just behind Jaden Wyndham, who committed back in February. Dawson, an offensive tackle, 6'6", 250 pounds. Maybe, Neil, one of those diamonds in the rough, a diamond you hope that you can keep in the commitment stables and not let him get to one of those bigger SEC programs or bigger Big Ten programs, because he looks like a guy that maybe profiles maybe on either side of the line. It just depends on where they want to put Lance Dawson. Kind of depends on what you look at in terms of profiles to see where he will end up playing. But he is a highly rated commit and a guy who's a really, really big athlete and one that is more difficult to get for some of the lower tier power conference schools. And then you have Brody Jones, who is 6'3", 175 pounds out of Fayetteville, Arkansas, and looks like could be the next in line, another solid cornerback addition for Eddie Hicks to work with as they try to continue building up that room and that execution out of the cornerback position as they did from 2023 to 24. Like to see it take another bigger leap from 2024 to 25. But overall, Neil, 12 commits on the board right now. Cincinnati sitting at one quarterback, one receiver, five offensive linemen, one defensive lineman, two defensive backs, and two special teamers as we sit here today. Decent class so far, but obviously still some work to do. And the addition of Lance Dawson, getting that top 35 player in the state of Ohio, ranked 34th overall, is exactly what fans have been clamoring for.
Yeah, Russ, and it's obviously a good turning point to kind of mention the Avon High School to Cincinnati pipeline continues, right? And this is now the third commit from Avon High School in the last 2 seasons. And for me, Russ, obviously, Dawson now joins the late Jeremiah Kelly and then Jacorion Coffee. But for me, to see Lance Dawson on his visit, I thought it was really touching and cool to see the kind of the T-shirt that he brought out. I'm not sure if you saw the pictures that he posted,
Oh, you
but
pay tribute to
yeah, paid
Jeremiah.
tribute to Jeremiah. I thought that was really
Nice.
cool. Obviously, those guys spent a lot of time together up at Avon High School, and Jeremiah probably played a huge role in Lance's football career as well, considering they both spent time there at the offensive line position. But it was cool to see that, and obviously, being from Avon, I know that kind of hit home, just like it would anywhere else, following the news of the late Jeremiah Kelly. But Russ, the 2026 class is moving, right? And it's funny how these commitments come right after the indoor practice facility opens. I know JT and I were talking, we are like, get ready because now with official visits lined up, the IPF is officially opened, everything's in there that they need. It's going to draw some recruits in there, and it's going to be hard for commits to say no to Cincinnati when you walk in that facility. So to see two commits come out of there, Lance Dawson, it's going to be interesting to see whether they use him on the offensive line or the defensive line. Obviously, when you're
Yeah.
6'5" and 260 pounds, you have the size to do both. So it's going to be curious to see what Cincinnati envisions him to be, whether that's on the offensive line or whether that's on the defensive line. But if I had to guess right now, I would think we would see him on the defensive line come 2026. But it's going to
Yeah, I
be
mean he's
interesting.
gonna have to put on he'd have to put on like 60 pounds at least to play tackle at on Nick Cardwell's line for sure.
And it's going to be interesting. And like you mentioned, Brody Jones is another good addition, 6'3" cornerback. So overall, anytime you get two big additions following recent visits, it's going to be things are starting to trend in the right direction. But obviously, this class is far from being done yet in terms of the 2026 class.
Yeah, we'll see. Can the IPF bring them into the top 50 of
Hmm.
classes? It has not been easy for Scott Satterfield and his staff to hit that mark on the recruiting side of things. The transfers have been really good, and they've honestly leaned more resources into the transfers than they have into the recruiting side. But eventually, you love to see them start creeping up those rankings, and it just has not happened yet in a Scott Satterfield class. 60th ranking in the 2024 class for Satterfield and the 63rd best class in 2025. So obviously a higher ceiling that they would, I'm sure, like to hit with the recruiting classes in the Scott Satterfield era. Let's take a quick break and get to the basketball side of things with some scheduling and their own recruiting interest in a lot of even more highly touted players. I mean, we're talking the best player specifically in the entire class for 2027 with Cincinnati's sights on him. All that after this on Bearcat Blitz. Bearcat Blitz picking things back up on the hardwood here, and we'll start with some scheduling fun, Neil. Hard date first with the Cincinnati Bearcats taking on Dayton November 11th with the most recent matchups setting up for a rubber match this time around. 1-1 in their last two meetings against Dayton, although very successful against them since 1949. They played them the sixth most times of any team in that stretch and hold a 45-17 overall record in the series across that time. Cincinnati will play them at home on November 11th and on the road next season, obviously either in November or December as part of the non-conference schedule at UD Arena. Real quick, Neil, before we get to the home and home, I don't know if we've discussed the Dayton matchup on the show very much at all, but I mean, this is exactly what we want. We don't want to go to Heritage Bank Center. All fine and good to have events there. That's great. But college basketball is about the home atmosphere, and it's about setting up these games to have your fans positioned to see them in the best environment possible. And that's exactly what Wes Miller has done. I got to give him a ton of credit. I mean, probably the most credit of any coach in terms of scheduling that I've covered so far in my short time on the beat here covering Cincinnati athletics. He is not ducking any smoke, Neil. He is down to play anybody in the region, and he is down to set them up to be marquee games at that. And obviously, they have switched the location from the neutral site to a home and home aspect. And Neil, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe next season or year after that, they pick up a matchup against Louisville as well in the non-conference and start that back up in terms of adding them back to the ether, especially with what who I forget the guy from College of Charleston who came there and completely turned things around last year, but Pat
Pat
Kelsey,
Kelsey.
yeah, he's done a great job in year one, has completely flipped them around, has turned Louisville back into a premier powerhouse program. So that would be a wonderful kind of quad one, quad two definitive non-conference setup to add to the ether. But Wes Miller has done a great job of bringing Dayton back into the fold, and not only that, bringing it to a home and home matchup with where we stand this year and next year.
Yeah, first off, let's talk about that, the scheduling aspect. Wes Miller has been very adamant that he has wanted to play these very good local teams,
Right?
the Ohio
Why
State,
not? Way
the
better than
NKU,
playing
the
Northern
Louisville.
Kentucky. Play the big boys.
Yes, exactly. And it would be smart to do so. I mean, you look at the season Louisville's had coming off. I would love to see that rivalry renewed. The
Yeah.
Dayton rivalry is continuing. Then you might add an Ohio State in there as well in upcoming years. It's going to be interesting to see what might come there. But man, I'm glad it's out of Heritage Bank Center. Russ, I am so happy. When I saw that news, I was so happy. I know we heard a little bit of rumblings there uh, before the announcement, but man, I'm so happy because I don't know. I wasn't able to cover the game last year due to a wedding that I was in. So I don't know if it was like the same setup it was 2 seasons ago, Russ, where you were courtside and you had the Dayton band right in front of you, and then you
It
had the
was
cheerleaders.
worse last year, Neil. It was worse. I mean, I would have rather had the band in my ear because you were actually like in a semi-media setup. They literally gave us 2x4 slabs of wood and put them on top of the back of the seats in the middle of one of the sections in the second level, and they called that the media area. It was literally just slabs of wood on top of seats, and then you had to sit behind. It was the craziest setup I've ever seen. I'm gonna be honest for a media
Yeah, I
event.
know. I know when we covered it 2 years ago, JT and I, we actually had to wear AirPods in because we had
Just
the
to stay
drummer right.
sane.
We had the drummer literally like banging in our ears. We had the cheerleaders. We had the whole band right there into us. It was a great view, obviously, and a great way to cover it. Felt like a college basketball environment, but ideally, you don't want to be sitting up next to a pair of drum sets just banging the whole time at Heritage Bank Center, and then your media essentials there. It would be nice to be back into an actual press conference room and not the back of the house at Heritage Bank Center. So
They did
it's going
have
to
an
be.
actual press conference room this time, so I will give them credit on that. They did step
Yeah,
that
I
part up.
know 2 years ago, we were in the back of the house and you had them tearing the court down. It was hard to kind of hear everything if you were sitting far back. So I know they probably learned from year one to year two on some things that they had to do better, but it's going to be nice to get this home and home back with a very good Dayton program. And I mean, Russ, speaking of Dayton, their non-conference schedule is absurd as well. So Anthony Grant's ducking no smoke either up there
Right.
now that they have
He
BYU,
deserves
Florida
some
State,
credit as well.
Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a good matchup. Dayton is a perennial A10 powerhouse and an NCAA tournament for the last few years. I'm happy to see that. You're going to have your Xavier matchup again. It's going to be great to see this matchup. And I'm glad the first one is at Cincinnati compared to at Dayton.
And you know what? Like Wes Miller could have gone into a year where he's firmly feeling the heat. right now after not making the NCAA tournament over his first 4 seasons and said, we're gonna onboard the guys slowly again and then see what happens with even more talent and see how it gels in the actual conference play. No, he's making sure to continue these rivalries, continue scheduling tough opponents, and that's exactly what you want to see because I think sharpening that iron earlier and often, as early and as often as you can in the season, is just going to make you that much more battle tested for Big 12 play, which has definitive home and away matchups taking on Houston, UCF, and West Virginia on the road and at home this year. Kind of Cincinnati's shaping up to be traditional rivals in the Big 12, and they stuck with those three as their home and away opponents for 2025-26. And then their home games come up against Colorado, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, AJ DeBansa, and BYU, what could be the one of the best teams in the nation, led by the not projected, if he's healthy, AJ DeBansa will be the #1 overall NBA draft pick right around this time next summer. And then Utah at home, just like last year. And Dan Skillings, the return of Dan to Fifth Third Arena with the Baylor Bears. Away opponents, you take on Arizona, Arizona State, go to Allen Fieldhouse to play Kansas. You go to Texas Tech to play the Red Raiders, and you're on the road at TCU and at Kansas State. Seems like a pretty good, well-rounded group of opponents for Cincinnati basketball in 25-26, Neil. I'm excited about this schedule, especially BYU and Baylor coming to Fifth Third Arena. Those are going to be must-see games.
Yeah, not even Baylor and BYU. You can throw Iowa State into that contention as well. So
Yeah.
overall, you're going to have three quality teams for a home matchup, and it's going to be
And then
cool to
plus
watch.
obviously the national runners up, Houston, but
And
everybody
that's
I'm sure everybody's just like, can we just get a win against Houston at this point? I know
yeah,
we're going to be playing them every year.
that's great to see too that we're back to a home and home with Houston. Like many years, I think fans really like that, despite them being
Because
a
it was
jug.
just at Houston last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it
Right?
was just at Houston last year, and I think if you had to have a home and home with anybody on this within the Big 12, I'm kind of happy to see it's UCF, Houston, and West Virginia. Because playing BYU at BYU would be awful, knowing that AJ DeBansa has completely taken over that program, and they're still returning a lot of talent as well. And then you have Iowa State, who is everybody knows, Cincinnati knows, is tough to play at their place in
Yeah.
Ames, Iowa. So it's going to be interesting, and I'm kind of hoping, Russ, like this might be nerve-wracking to a lot of people. I hope Dan Skillings gets the recognition he deserves when he comes back to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I hope fans give him the warm ovation. I know last season didn't go quite as planned for him due to the injury and everything, but for what he did for Cincinnati the last 3 years, that was Wes Miller's big time recruit. First big time recruit. You're going to see a lot of love shown to Dan Skillings. And honestly, I'm excited to see him back at Fifth Third Arena. I know a lot of people didn't want to see him go, but overall, him being back at Fifth Third Arena, I don't know if you saw it, Russ. The last day he was in Cincinnati for a workout, he posted a video and was like, "This is my last workout in Cincy." And you can kind of tell it like hit home that he did not want to leave Cincinnati, but he made the decision to go to Baylor. So I hope when he comes back, it's probably going to happen that Wes Miller and them will probably embrace him before the game. They'll probably thank him for play a little video from his time here, but it's going to be great to see Dan back in Cincinnati for sure.
A lot of fun games on the docket for Cincinnati Bearcats basketball. We'll see if it's the right mixture to get them into the NCAA tournament for the first time this decade. A guy that would, I mean, it would be an absolute disaster if Cincinnati brought this player in and did not make the NCAA tournament. And it's a complete long shot to see it even happen. But Baba Oladiton out of James Hubert Blake, Maryland, gets an offer from Cincinnati over the last few days. And Neil, he is the #1 overall player in the 2027 class. 34 total offers, would be the best prospect to ever play for Cincinnati. I mean, he's hearing from the likes of Duke, Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas, Georgetown, Baylor, USC, Maryland, the who's who of college basketball, and a guy that would be a wonderful addition for Cincinnati, and not the only kind of big name out there as well. Aziz Olajuwon gets an offer from Cincinnati, the son of Hakeem Olajuwon. DeMarcus Henry, the son of Chris Henry, gets an offer from Cincinnati as a four-star player. You also have Nasir Anderson, now a four-star player, getting an offer from Cincinnati. So it seems like the start of this kind of June window has really heated up the recruiting cycle for Cincinnati and Corey Evans. And it seems like with the addition of Corey Evans and just with the way that this athletics program is rising and all that stuff, Cincinnati not afraid to go after the best of the best and the top of the line talent. And Neil, it's interesting because it seems like they may be taking a little bit more of a focused effort on the 2027 class than the 2026 class when it comes to Cincinnati Bearcats basketball.
Yeah, and that's a great thing to mention too. Obviously, when you look down at the 2026 class, they're still in prime conversations with some guys. Obviously, a
Right.
big one
And this is
there.
right around the time where the one or two commits that Wes Miller has averaged in each class is going to start coming in. It's usually that first one is in mid-June, early July, right in that summer window is when that first basketball commit has been hitting over the last few years.
Yeah, and they're still in great talks with guys in the 2026 class, Russ, too. And it's great to mention one of those being Jackson Richardson from Miami, Florida. They were heavily involved in Jace Richardson, who is now going to be in the NBA, the son of Jason Richardson.
Who was it?
They
Taylor
have,
Kinney as well, the five-star point guard.
mhm.
Big in on
Yep,
him.
they have Taylon Kinney as well. They have Chris Washington Jr. out there as well, that they have been heavily involved in his recruitment for the last 2 years. They have Jalen Wingfield. They're still highly out there talking to a lot of people from the 2026 class. And it's worth noting they offered a couple local guys too. Josh Tyson of Lakota West picked up an offer, 2027 guard. You still have arguably the number one player in the class of 2028 in Cam Mercer, who went from Winton Woods to Huntington Prep, who is now playing for Team USA and is ranked the number one player in the class of 2028. So there's a lot of local talent as well that is picking up some interest from Cincinnati.
It's all heating up, as is the weather here in the city of Cincinnati. Fun show with Neil. Touched on a lot there. And we'll be back at it later on this week to give you the latest on Cincinnati Bearcats basketball and football across Bearcat Blitz right here on the Believe Network. Have a great rest of your week, everybody.